When you look at an emerging economy like Bangladesh, you see this incredible, explosive growth. And you have to wonder, what's really behind that? It's not just about government policies or some new tech. So often, it comes down to individuals, people who connect all the dots. And today, we're going to dive into the story of one of those key architects of business.
I mean, think about it. This is the big one for any entrepreneur, right? You've built something great, you've got a solid business at home. But how do you make that leap? How do you go from being a local hero to competing on the global stage? It can feel like there's this massive, impossible gap to cross.
Well, the answer, a lot of the time, is a catalyst. And I'm not just talking about someone who gives you a bit of advice. I mean someone who's actively out there building the bridges, connecting policy, what's happening on the ground, and the global market.
All right, so who are we talking about? Let me introduce you to Joynal Abdin. Think of him as a business consultant, a policy expert, and a digital strategist all rolled into one. And for more than 18 years, he's been guiding Bangladeshi businesses on this very journey.
Okay, so what do we actually mean when we say business catalyst? It's really about this unique mix of skills. It's someone who gets the big picture, the high-level economic policy, but who can also get in the weeds and give direct, hands-on advice to a startup. And on top of that, they know the nitty-gritty of global trade. It's right there, at that intersection, that the real magic happens. So how does he actually pull this off? Well, his whole approach is built on three main pillars, and together they form this really solid foundation for success. First up, let's talk about his foundation. Championing small and medium enterprises, or what we call SMEs. Look, in a fast-growing economy like Bangladesh, SMEs are everything. Seriously, they create most of the jobs, they're the ones driving innovation from the ground up, they are the absolute engine of growth. And this is exactly where he got his start. And his work here is just, wow, it's so comprehensive. He wasn't just some guy in an office. He was on the front lines, leading development programs at the SME Foundation. He was doing the deep research, figuring out how to group businesses into these powerful clusters to help them grow together. He even wrote academic papers on the challenges they face. And the crucial part? He still does direct one-on-one mentorship. It's that kind of full-spectrum approach that really makes a difference. Okay, so pillar 2. Because let's face it, being strong locally isn't enough. You have to connect to the rest of the world. And this is where he becomes that essential bridge. And man, this is where you really see his influence just explode. Right now, as Secretary General of the Brazil-Bangladesh Chamber of Commerce, he's actively prying open new markets in Latin America. And before that, in his role at the super-influential Dhaka Chamber, he was right at the center of all the key trade discussions. But here's the thing. It's not just about fancy high-level talks. He provides real, tangible services, like buyer-seller matchmaking. I mean, he is literally connecting a producer in Bangladesh with a business partner halfway across the globe. And that brings us to pillar 3, which is what makes his approach so incredibly relevant right now. Because you can have the best product in the world, you can have the perfect international connection, but if you don't have a smart digital strategy, you're basically invisible. So his modern toolkit is all about these digital skills. We're talking about being seriously good at building a professional website, running smart, data-driven marketing campaigns, and even using digital tools to tackle something as tricky as choosing the right export market. It's really the final, absolutely crucial piece of the puzzle for any business that wants to go global today. So you're probably wondering, how does someone build such a unique mix of skills? Well, it wasn't overnight. It was a long, very strategic journey. Let's trace the path that got him here. His career path is it's like a masterclass in strategic progression. He started right at the top, gaining policy insights at the Federation of Bangladesh Chambers of Commerce and Industry. That's the FBCCI. Then he went deep, driving grassroots development with the SME Foundation. After that, he stepped into a leadership role at the huge Dhaka Chamber of Commerce and Industry, the DCCI, connecting the worlds of business and policy. And then, in 2022, he makes two massive moves at once. He launches his own consulting firm, Trade and Investment Bridge, or TINB, to offer those hands-on services, and he takes the helm of the Brazil-Bangladesh Chamber of Commerce and Industry, the BBCCI, to lead bilateral trade. You can just see how every single step builds perfectly on the one before it. But his impact doesn't stop with his direct work. Far from it. He's also become a really important voice in the whole economic conversation in Bangladesh. See, he's not just doing the work, he's thinking about it, analyzing it, and sharing what he knows with everyone. And when I say he's sharing it, I mean
The scale is just staggering. We're talking over 1,000 articles and opinion pieces. That means his analysis on everything from SME policy to global trade is constantly showing up in major newspapers, influencing how both business leaders and policymakers think.
And it's not just in the news. His influence is academic, too. His research, like his work on SME clusters, has been cited more than 450 times by other scholars around the world. Now, that's a huge deal. It tells you that his ideas aren't just practical advice. They're actually shaping how academics think about economic development. On top of all that, he's an author. He's written more than 5 books on everything from broad economic development to super practical guides on strategy. This really cements his role not just as a doer, but as a teacher in his field.
And all of this comes together in this really fascinating duality. On one hand, through his own firm, he's working at the micro level, helping one single business figure out its strategy. Then, at the very same time, as Secretary General of the BBCCI, he's at the macro level, shaping trade policy between entire countries. It's honestly so rare to find someone who can operate and be effective at both of those scales at once.
So what's the big takeaway here? What does all this mean for the future of business, not just in Bangladesh, but really in any growing economy? It seems to point to one thing: the need for a consolidated guide.
And in his own words, you can see his focus is locked on the future. He talks about building sustainable partnerships and driving what's called South-South economic cooperation. So what does that actually mean? It means building strong trade relationships between developing nations, instead of always just looking to the traditional Western markets. It's a really forward-thinking vision for a much more balanced, interconnected global economy. So really, the main takeaway from all this is pretty clear. For a business to win on the global stage today, you need a guide. But not just any guide, not just a consultant or a policy person or a digital marketing guru. You need someone who is all 3 of those things rolled into one. A true catalyst who gets the whole ecosystem.
And that really leaves us with one big question to think about. As our world gets more connected, but also more complex, who's going to build these vital bridges for the next generation of entrepreneurs? It is such a critical role, and people like Joynal Abdin give us a really powerful blueprint for what that person needs to look like.